Let me now introduce, to get this conversation really started, Lucille Victoria Rouse of Chicago, winner of our online contest in which we ask listeners of the Tom Joyner Morning Show to submit their questions to the website. Lucille, please welcome her.
Even though a majority of individuals who have served as president since Abraham Lincoln have been Republican, I believe that most Black Americans who will vote in the year 2008 are not able to name even one Republican president in the 142 years since Lincoln's death who have left a positive and significant legacy for Black Americans. If you are elected president in 2008, what positive and significant legacy, if any, will you leave for Black Americans?
Governor Huckabee.
Well, I would say, first of all, that I would hope they would name President Eisenhower, because he sent those troops and federalized the National Guard in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957, when it was a Democrat governor who stood at the schoolhouse door and said those young people couldn't come in. And I would like to believe, if I were fortunate enough to be the president, that at the end of my tenure, hopefully 8 years, by the way, not just 4, that housing opportunities would be better, that we made some real strides in the criminal justice system so that you don't have a different sentence for a 17-year-old kid caught with a lid of marijuana than you do some upper-middle-class white kid who gets caught with cocaine. He goes to rehab and the black kid goes to prison for 10 years. We changed that. We'd have a different system as it relates to such things as health care, because there's a disproportionate level of people in the African-American community with hypertension, with stroke, with diabetes. And there needs to be a disproportionate level of funding to help them. Those are the kind of things that could make a difference and end this divide that we have.
Governor, thank you. Congressman Paul?
I would like to believe that if we have a freer society, it will take care of blacks and whites and everybody equally, because we're all individuals, and to me that is so important. But if we had equal justice under the law, I think it would be a big improvement. If we had probably a repeal of most of the federal laws on drugs and the unfairness on how blacks are treated with these drug laws, it would be a tremendous improvement. And also, I think that if you're going to have prosperity, it serves everybody. And if this is done by emphasizing property rights and freedom of the individuals, making sure that the powerful special interests don't control Washington, that the military-industrial complex doesn't suck away all the wealth of the country, and then we would have prosperity. This is what we need, and we need to share it. The free society is the only society that can provide goods and services and distribute them in the most fair manner. And that is the society that I would advocate and argue for and believe it's available to us.
Thank you, sir. Senator Brownback.
Lucille, it's a great question. It's one we should ponder and ponder seriously. There's several things that I would do. One is in focusing on rebuilding the family, and that's been at the core of my campaign, is rebuilding the family. We pushed that in Washington, D.C., where I chaired the committee and developed marriage development accounts, and really urging that. Second one is I think symbols are important, and I would hope I would be the president that would open the National African American Museum of History and Culture on the Mall in Washington, D.C. I pushed for that. We've gotten the funding on it, and that symbolism would be important to do. And a final thing that I think is critical that we do, I think we need to have, and we need to pass in the Congress and the President sign it and say it, an official apology from the U.S. government for the institutions of slavery and segregation in this country. I think that needs to be done.
Senator, thank you. Congressman Tancredo.
Thank you. First of all, I do believe that there are a number of Republican presidents who have done a great deal for black Americans because they've done something for all Americans. Ronald Reagan, from my point of view, did something for every single American by increasing individual liberty. You know, it is, I think, destructive to only talk about the politics of race and suggest that all of the actions taken or all of the specific programs that we identify and talk about tonight should be focused on race. It really does not do a service, I think, to us as Americans. And again, that promise to America. And I'll tell you this, one of the things that I will do as President of the United States to increase the economic opportunities for every American, and especially people in the lower economic rung of the ladder in America, is to reduce the flow of illegal immigration into this country, which depresses wage rates for the lowest income earners in this country. And it's got to be dealt with. It's got to be dealt with forcefully. And I tell you, yes, black America, brown America, white America, all will be enhanced by actually enforcing our laws.
Congressman Hunter?
Thank you, Tavis. What a wonderful question. And you know, I think that we also have to add with Governor Huckabee's statement about Ike, that calm hand of Dwight Eisenhower that brought about desegregation. Also, you know, in 1964, that Civil Rights Act was passed with a greater proportion of Republican votes in the United States Congress than Democrat votes, a fact that's been forgotten over the years. I want you to remember that. But, you know, I can't talk about young black Americans, the need for them to be shielded from pornography, which is certainly a need, without talking about the need for all Americans to be shielded from pornography. And in the barrio where I practiced law before I ran for Congress and got this job, I remember Mr. Sanchez down the street with his family working 18-hour days, the need to have less regulation, less taxation. That would help all Americans. And I guess I would go with Jack Kemp's great statement, a rising tide lifts all boats. A Republican administration, my administration, would lift all boats.
Congressman, thank you. Ambassador Keys?
Well, I would hope that the most important legacy of my administration would be to remind people that in spite of all the talk, I don't believe there is this deep divide between blacks and whites in America. I believe that we are, in fact, part of one nation and one community, and that we stand together right now in danger of our rights because the core of that community is not race. The core of that community is not money. The core of that community is the moral consensus that we are all created equal and endowed by our Creator, God, with our unalienable rights. That we have the right in our policies and in our laws to honor and respect the Creator, God. And as a practical matter, I would want to see that unity, that moral understanding restored where it is most important, in the education of our young, by adopting an approach to education that empowers every parent in this country to send their children to schools that reflect their faith and values so that the black community can rebuild moral, community-based schools that reflect their Christian beliefs.
Lucille, thank you very much.